Hello and welcome to the No Balls Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick McDonald, with me co-host Sheldon Kaufman. Today we are starting the Utah Jazz's preseason predictions episode, and we're going to recap their offseason like we always do. We will do these episodes, one for every team. We're going to start with Utah before we get forward into recapping the 2025 season. Sheldon will have a trivia question for me. And we'll go ahead and get started with that trivia question. What do we have today, Sheldon?
All right, Pat. Who is the all-time leading scorer for the Utah Jazz?
Layup. Let's go. This has got to be Karl Malone.
Dang. Yeah, that's correct. I thought maybe Stockton might have crossed your mind, and then that would have given you something, but no. I might have to come a little harder on the pause, but I'm gonna have to come a little harder on these next ones.
Yeah. Well, we've now been granted the luxury of talking about the Utah Jazz and Danny Ainge. We've been looking forward to this since we recorded the Jazz episode last summer because I think we talked about them like 3 times during the regular season. And like we try to talk about all the teams, but there was like literally nothing to talk about with Utah. Because they were terrible and they wanted to be terrible, and it was really bad at some times last year. So we'll go ahead and talk about last year's team. 2025 Utah Jazz were 17 and 65, 15th in the Western Conference, last in the entire NBA. Expected record 20 and 62, 27th in the league. SRS, which is schedule adjusted net rating, of a negative 8.51, which was 27th. Not good. 10 and 31 at home, 7 and 34 on the road. 13 and 41 pre All-Star break, 4 and 24 post All-Star break. They really turned it on down the end of the stretch. 9 and 21 against the East, 8 and 44 against the West. And then in clutch games, they managed to have a negative 21 net rating, which was last, and they were 8 and 25. What a season this was for the Utah Jazz. We'll talk a little bit on how they were able to achieve this. Oh, and I've moved ahead to the offensive stats. So there we go. We'll look at
Oh,
Lowry for a little bit longer. Anything that you want to comment on this past season from Utah?
It was just a rough season, and I mean, you look at the post All-Star break numbers. I mean, a lot of that was just a lot of main guys weren't playing, like Markkanen, Kessler, Sexton, Clarkson. They were riddled with injuries throughout the year, and they were low key kind of tanking for Cooper Flag. Uh, didn't really end up the way that they thought they would and getting the number 1 pick, but I mean, they ended up getting a top 3 guy at number 5. So I think we'll talk about it a little bit more in the later in the episode. But yeah, like you said, just a really, really rough year. Not a lot of positives anywhere on this record. The negative net rating, negative 21 net rating in clutch games is just ridiculous. It just showed like how this team was just really going through it this year. Not really much other to say than that.
And I think the crazy part too is like it's not like they were being misused in close games or just in games in general. They made sure this team was bad
Yeah,
going into the year. I think Danny Ainge saw the upcoming 2 draft classes and said, "Yeah, we want to be bad those years," and it didn't work out. Lottery balls jumped them down to 5. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the draft section, but we saw a couple of years ago, really the 24 season and the 23 season, the Jazz were pretty solid with like the same core that they had this past season, just like missing a couple of supporting pieces. Yeah, they nuked those supporting pieces off the team this last year. We talked about that coming into the year. We were like, yeah, what made them solid for the first 30 games of the year is no longer on the team, and it reflected in the overall season. We'll go ahead and talk about their offense. 111.3 offensive rating, which was 24th. They turned the ball over the most in the NBA. They actually were a solid offensive rebounding team, partially because they play huge. 6th in pace, pretty common in not great teams. And we'll talk about the individual play types. Isolation wise, 12th most amount of isolations, and they were not good at them. 26th in efficiency. Ball handling of frequency was 21st. it's actually kind of interesting because usually bad teams have a ton of ball handler reps out there. Utah's a good coached bad team, so they didn't have those as frequently. Um, then efficiency wise, 25th, not good. 0.83 points per possession. It's really rough. Roller frequency was 20th. Um, efficiency was 103 points per possession, which is 26th. Not great there either. Yeah, you'll get to the theme here. Um, post up Post up frequency 1.7%, 26th highest frequency. Not a huge part of their offense. They didn't have post up bigs, so they didn't run post ups. 29th in efficiency, terrible. Like they could not get post scoring whatsoever. One bright spot about their offense, in my opinion, here: 17th in transition frequency, at 17.7%. They weren't good once they got into transition, 25th in transition frequency, but that 17th frequency in transition is probably the difference between being like a bottom three offense and being 24th where they are right now, because geez, the half court stuff was terrible. Like,
Yeah.
it's so bad. Just getting a
Oh yeah.
transition possession was so good for them. So I'll let you talk about this Jazz offense.
Well, I mean, if you just looking at the numbers, you can tell that it was rough all year. Um, they didn't they didn't have the guys that could play. Like you see, the offense wasn't really like the heavy pick and roll kind of offense. And this is a team that like to get a lot of off ball movement, set screens for shooters, and then they like to chuck threes. The transition stuff, like you said, is super interesting. I mean, it's interesting to me that they're giving to it like 17th most in the league, but they still weren't converting at like such a high rate, considering like this is the team that really like to push the pace. I thought that maybe they'd be a little bit better in the transition, but like you said, like the the fact that they were able to get that many uh, transition opportunities definitely did help them offensively, because everything else was really bad in the half court. They really struggled. They didn't really have like guys that could, I mean, as you can see, really handle that pick and roll and make it be effective and score off of it, instead of getting stuffed whenever they try to do it off of off of what the defense would do, whether they would switch on or hedge. Um, they just really struggled. Uh, they relied a lot on the three ball and just shooting it. And that's why you see the numbers weren't so great this year, in my opinion.
Yeah, you mentioned the transition too. I think the frequency of it is really jarring once we get into their defensive stuff. Just spoiler alert, they also were the worst at forcing turnovers. So the fact that they were still in the middle of the pack in running in transition is quite, like, it means they were pushing the pace as soon as they got the board. They needed to do it, as you can see, because they couldn't score in the half court. I think they were one of the two worst half court offenses in the league. It was really rough. Their best offensive players last year are extremely flawed. Like, everybody knows Larry Markkinen is a good player, but he's not going to self-create offense, and he's not going to create much for teammates. He has to be set up with screens a lot of the time, and that's he's still a very good player, but as we get into it, like, they didn't have a bunch of players to set him up as well, and some of their veterans that were supposed to be good were either not in the lineup or in a Knicks backup. Gardnell's situation just wasn't good. Can't wait for that move, to talk about that one. But yeah, they just their veterans weren't as good as they needed to be either. John Collins out the entire year. It was just so rough. And then for a large majority of their season, their backcourt was Keontae George and Isaiah Collier, who uh, were very overtasked as rookie guards who were taken in like the later parts of the draft in their relatively weak drafts. And just of course, it was going to end up like this, is how I think it was. You got anything else on this great offense that we were blessed to get 82 games of last year? I think you're muted.
Dang, I thought I think we covered it pretty much. Not good stuff, and I'm a little worried to see what's about to be on this next slide, because Yeah.
Spoiler alert, it's not as bad. They were the worst defense. 120.4 defensive rating. They were the worst at forcing turnovers, 30th. 16th in defensive rebounding percentage. At least they were all right at that. But then you look at the half court stuff, and the half court stuff is fine. It's just, we'll talk about it. Isolation frequency was 22nd. You want more isolation possessions if you're a defense because they're relatively inefficient. But when you're the Utah Jazz in 2025, everything's an efficient possession against you because 104 points per possession on isolations is really tough. You're not going to have much success if you're guarding the most inefficient possession to a 104 rate. Keep in mind that is the frequency or the efficiency of the first place Oklahoma City Thunder. Everybody was playing like the OKC Thunder against the Jazz. Pick and roll ball handler, they were actually good at preventing them. 11th in efficiency. It's just teams never really ran them on them, so it was a very it was a relatively low percentage of plays relative to the league. They were 29th in frequency against. Roller obviously is going to inherently be low as well, only 23rd frequency, and they were decent at preventing those with 12th lowest efficiency for their opponents. But again, it wasn't a large percentage of their points or their possessions. Post up percentage, teams did post up a good bit against them. 3.7% was 12th, and then actually fine efficiency, 102 points per possession, 18th in the league. Those things are not going to kill you. What really killed them was 22.6% transition opportunities for their opponents. This was first in the league by like 2.5%, which is like just terrible because they turned the ball over so much because they couldn't hold on to the ball with their veterans, and then they had guards trying to do stuff that they were just not ready to do, and then transition defense, they were not good at preventing transition opportunities. So that is the main reason their defense was so terrible because everything else was okay, and then they just gave up so many transition opportunities. I'll give you the floor. Anything big on this defense for you?
I mean, you pretty much mentioned it. The glaring thing is the transition. Like they were one of the probably the worst team. I mean, teams were getting out in transition to them all the time and were converting at a really high rate. So that definitely hurt them. The isolation stuff is jarring. Like you said, everyone was playing like the Thunder against them. Looks like they were able to handle the pick and roll like at a pretty decent rate, like when it was happening, but not a lot of teams attacked that because they were able to exploit all the other weaknesses they had. This team just really like they were pretty decent inside because Walker Kessler, one of the better rim protectors in the league. You have Kyle Filipowski, Lauri Markkinen, so you have like some decent big size, but they just really struggled on the perimeter. And that at the point of the attack, they just really struggled, and I think that's what a big problem of their defense was this year. Not so much of the inside, but the people that they had guarding the perimeter were just not doing a good job of containing their man.
Yeah, like for sure. And if you just think about like the makeup of the team from a year ago, they're most of their best players were small guards. They had Markkinen, they had Kessler, they had Collins. Collins played 39 games. Kessler played 58 games. Markkinen, obviously, they're going to sit him out because he's going to make them good enough. Even when Kessler played, they were a bad offense or they were a bad defense a year ago. So it was just really rough, like because a lot of the time they were playing two small guards because Colin Sexton and Jordan Clarkson can't play point guard, and Keontae George, you don't want him being your primary point guard, so they were playing two small guards just so much. Even if like they were going to play big on the defensive end with sometimes Markkinen playing the three or Collins, Markkinen, Kyle Filipowski being out there together, stuff like that, but it was just so rough. Personnel wise, they were not good. And then I think Kessler might not have been 100% because he was a lot better earlier in his career than he was this past year defensively. You're ready to move to coaching and scheme, I believe.
Yeah,
All right. Team scheme and coaching staff is the next section. As you can see, Will Hardy was really going through it, quite angry. I believe he's looking at um God, who's the player? It's not somebody currently on the team. I think it's Dante Exum is who he's looking at like that. Um, Dante Exum was pretty solid his last year on the Jazz, I think. Um, New general managers Austin Ainge, nepotism reigns supreme. Um, Steve Wojciechowski is their new one of their new assistant coaches. Other notable assistant coaches: Jason Terry. Everybody knows Jason Terry. Yeah, LeBron, and then Sean Sheldon, other assistant coach for them. He's been there. He's been with Will Hardy a long time, I believe, dating back to San Antonio as assistant coaches and video coordinators. So, a lot of guys Will Hardy's very familiar with. You know, unfortunately, we haven't been able to see Will Hardy get to cook because you know he's not been giving any ingredients. And yeah, if you want to get the floor here and scheme, I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, well, they're a pretty active offense. They like getting a lot of cuts, passing to guys, cutting and getting good finishes. They like a lot of actions when there's three players on one side, um, and then the middle players cutting open into the space or trying to set a screen for whoever has the ball. And then they did a lot of driving and kicking for 3 pointers. This is a team that tried to shoot a lot of threes. So they had some guys that were able to shoot it well, some guys that were stepping into some roles last year. We saw Bo Sensabaugh take a step, I think, in some 3 point shooting. Keontae George too was a decent 3 point shooter for them last year. Uh, yeah, they just like you said, Will Hardy didn't get to cook a lot, but I mean, I think that once he gets into like he gets like a decent team that's not going to tank, we can see a lot of things open up for him because he is a really good coach and has ran a lot of good actions. And I think with one of the guys they drafted, it's going to be really interesting to see what they do because they ran a lot of like a lot of screens to get guys open for 3 point shots because like you said and like we've talked about a little bit, some of their guys struggle a lot with 3 point creating, like self creating, like Laurie Markkinen, guys like that. So they'll set screens for them and a lot of the times it was open. Like with Bo Sensabaugh, they set a lot of 3 point screens for him, and it was able to work pretty well. So yeah,
I think it's interesting for both of their rookies. Honestly, I think they, we'll talk about them in the rookie section, but I think it'll be great for both of them. Just going back and watching when the Jazz were good, like 2 years ago for the first half of the year, and then they tanked for the rest, the entire rest of the season. Their offense was so great. Like everything was intentional. Um, rope a dopes on screen actions, just not even any like super great passers as well. And I think as more and more players leave the Jazz, we'll start to see like this kind of is like a free boost your 3 point percentage type of team. Um, because Will Hardy's going to scheme you open consistently, and we'll see that as more and more players leave this, the Will Hardy Utah Jazz. Um, I think the coaching side of things is not the issue with the team. It's that you know they intentionally made a bad team last year because the 2 years before they couldn't completely tank because Will Hardy was cooking with Kelly Olynyk. So, um, do we want to talk about the Ainge side of things, Danny or Austin?
yeah. What do we want to talk about? Like what, like how they've been handling the team recently, or
Yeah, if there's a time to go in on them, this is the time.
yeah. I mean they've just been tanking. I think that's what it's been seeming like. But I mean you got to figure out what to do with marketing. I feel like that's the next step because, like you said, like marketing's not going to be a one for you. Like his game is not set up to be like that. Like he could be a good two, and a really good three, like a great three and a decent two. I think. So you have to go out and find that guy. Like, can Ace Bailey be the guy that complements marketing like really well? I don't know because they kind of play like a very similar position. They're very similar in size. So I think they're still looking for that guy, and I don't know how long you're gonna tank for until you have to find him. Like we saw in this draft, you don't know where you're going to end up, no matter how much you tank. As we saw them get the fifth pick instead of the first pick, and if you miss out on AJ DiBasanta, the guy from BYU next year, I mean, you're pretty much screwed, and then you're again picking like from the fifth best guy in the draft, and then you're kind of stuck in the same purgatory that you have been for 6 years now.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about them is like it could have been so much better because we talked about it when we ranked GMs that like them and OKC blew it up at like pretty similar times. OKC was like a year before, and Utah is just so much farther behind because of how they've mismanaged assets. We'll talk about it because, geez, they've made some trades this offseason too. But like Larry Markkinen, how they handled him was so terrible because he had one of the best contracts in the league. He's making $12 million as an All NBA player, or a near All NBA player, and they didn't trade him on that contract. And now that he's making 48 a year, they're trying to trade him, but they're also not playing him, which is just killing his value because they want to tank. None of it has made sense. Austin Ainge brought in this season as they missed on a pick last year was kind of the main reason pointed to why they made that decision. And yeah, you ready to move forward? Because that's enough on Ainge.
Yeah.
Whew. Draft summary. Let's go. Fun part of the day. Uh, Ace Bailey, 5th overall. Walter Clayton, 19th overall. I would say relative to consensus, this is one of the lower prospects I was on compared to consensus in Ace Bailey, and Walter Clayton being one of the highest I was on compared to consensus. So this is just such an interesting draft. I'll let you go first. What do we think about? We'll start with Ace.
Yeah. Ace Bailey, one of the craziest stories of the draft, I think, for sure. Declining multiple workouts, even declining one with the Utah Jazz. But I'd be very happy if you're a Jazz fan. 6'9" with a 7 foot wingspan, 202 pounds, really good 3 point shooter for his, and like the ability that he has to get it up over pretty much anybody with that size and length is just something that you love, especially in the NBA. He's really good scoring off ball, cutting. Like he's able, if you need to, if you have a good passer on your team, he definitely will benefit from that because he's able to find cuts, really good off ball vision. And he's a great rebounder too, 7.2 rebounders in college. So yeah, lots to like there from Ace Bailey. Some weaknesses is definitely the he has to get a little stronger, put on a little weight. It's still kind of skinny a little bit. But especially in the NBA when you're gonna have to go up against a lot of like really strong but just built guys, just men. And then I think the other thing was just being consistent on defense in the 3 point shot. He only shot 34% from the 3 point line in college. So I mean I think just consistency is the only thing really. And then being able to score on yourself. There was a lot of problems with that at Rutgers, I think. Especially when it came down into the clutch. So yeah, that would really be only my only knocks on him, but I think it's a really great player. Just his length and his ability to shoot the ball is just really impressive, and his athleticism as well.
Yeah. I think when I was first considering Ace Bailey, I think the concern I had was like, okay, so he's tall and he can shoot, so it sounds like Patrick Williams to me. Um, but then as you get into Ace Bailey, you start to understand the intricacies of his game. I think he's very good. I think the misconception around the media was that he fell in the draft because of his like pre-draft stuff, which is partially true, but he was also already falling in the draft. Like, I really don't think what he did affected the picks of the 76ers and Charlotte Hornets. I think they would have taken the two guys they took anyway over Ace Bailey. I don't think he was the clear third best player in the draft, but Ace Bailey's very good. He's got great length. He's a good athlete. Sometimes his athleticism is completely hidden by the fact that, like you said, he needs to put on like a lot of strength because he can get bumped off of spots, and his handles also like a real concern for me because I just don't know how much self-created offense is going to come from him. But those things can be improved in the NBA. There's not too much of a track record to improve those things in the NBA. But if it doesn't, Lauri Markkanen isn't good at those two things. And Will Hardy's been able to get looks for Lauri Markkanen. And I think we said it pre-draft that the Jazz is the best place for Ace Bailey to go because they will prioritize his development. They have a coach who can utilize a player with very limited self-creation ability, and this is the perfect place for Ace Bailey to go. I think hopefully they'll give him the shots that'll allow him to stay on the floor and hopefully, learn a little bit more on the defensive side of the floor because I think the tools are there defensively. It's just the tape was so shaky and, hit or miss that he's not going to be flagged as a great defensive prospect, but he's got some upside to be good defensively. I was not really sure where to come to comparison wise for Ace Bailey, just because I think there's a pretty wide range. I'll have a question for you first, I guess. Do you think you mentioned it in comparison to Markkanen? I'm more in the belief that he won't be a better offensive player than Markkanen. I guess if you think otherwise, what's like the key reason for you otherwise?
I feel like that I feel like he can be a better shooter than Markkinen, and I feel like he's more athletic. So I feel like eventually I feel like the handle is gonna be better, and I feel like he's gonna be able to like drive more to the basket and just have really athletic finishes. I just feel like I don't know. If the ball handling gets up a little bit, I think he can be better than Markkinen.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's just we got to see that, I think.
Yeah, I think the first season's definitely going to be the test. Like if they're ripping him really easily, then I think that Utah is going to have a big problem. Um, but I mean, if he shows some flashes and is able to like create create his own shot and not like have to just hope off of catch and shoot threes and stuff like that, like this is a really great like all that stuff with the measurements. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. I think the key for him is can he get to like Paul George level offensively? I think is like the key for him because he's not going to be as good as Paul George defensively, but like if he can get that good offensively, like this is just a slam dunk pick, even at fifth overall. Um, I like it. I coming up with player comparisons for Ace is like extremely hard because he's a shooter archetype of player, but he shot 34% from three in college and like didn't shoot well on short float shots or free throws or all the other touch indicators. But been a shooting prospect through his whole NBA career. So I was just like, if everything goes right, it's like Brandon Ingram like because he's actually like a pretty good like post pull up shooter. And using his length out of post up situations. It's just he kind of can't pass from those situations, and I think that's a big development for him because if he can pass out of those situations, he does become a really good half court threat in that way because he doesn't have to dribble as much in the post. And then medium range outcomes is like maybe it's like Sandy Aldama, Jet Howard is like a really pessimistic view, but like Jet Howard, if he actually could shoot, um, so those were some of the names that came up for me, and like the Porter Jr. one comes up, but I think Porter Jr. is even a better shooter than Ace Bailey was. So, what names came up for you?
I think the Paul George one for sure. Like I feel like the offensive game could be very similar. I think definitely Paul George way better defensively. Um, I think a more recent one that you could do is potentially Brandon Miller, even kind of similar in size. Yeah, I think two super athletic guys that both can play the wing and the guard. Both that are like kind of average shooters and pretty decent at getting to the rim and can have some explosive finishes there. So yeah.
Yeah, like same thing with Porter Jr. with Miller is that like I would love the Brandon Miller fit or comp if Ace Bailey didn't just have like one of the weirder shooting seasons. So I just, if we believe Ace Bailey's a good shooter, which I don't think is impossible, um, Brandon Miller makes a ton of sense because they have a lot of the same weaknesses with like the ability to get to the rim. I think they're both, or Brandon Miller is good finishing at the rim now, but in college he also wasn't good at finishing in the rim like Ace Bailey was this year in college. So that will probably improve if he's a good shooter. Then the touch will be there, and then yeah, I can get it for sure. If please just Ace Bailey, if you can shoot the ball, man, you're gonna be great. I feel like, but uh, are you ready to move to Walt?
Just real quick, I also think that like the shooting stuff may be like a little I don't know how to say, like I guess like an asterisk, because like at Rutgers it was just him and Dylan Harper, and like
Yeah,
he was shooting a lot. And I think that like with a minimized role, like obviously he's still going to be putting up a lot of shots with Utah, but like, I feel like in a minimized role, maybe he's not having to shoot as many 3 pointers a game, then maybe we'd see the percentages go up. But I think also, like you said, he did have a rough year this year. And
yeah.
if he just comes out and shoots the ball, it's going to be like, what the heck was the rest of the NBA doing not picking this guy at number 3 overall?
And he shot almost 40% on catch and shoot threes is the thing to go with that compared to like probably like 29% on pull up threes. So Will Hardy will hopefully get him some catch and shoot threes. I'm confident in that ability. Walter Clayton Jr. I really love the Walter Clayton Jr. He was like one of the better players in college basketball this year, and like I'm usually not like super pulled to the 22-year-old senior college players. But Walter Clayton just like it must have been lining up with when I was watching playoff basketball. I just like his shooting ability is NBA caliber. I think he was legitimately either, if not the best shooter in the draft. He's number two behind probably Trey Johnson. Yeah, I really love the shooting ability of Walter Clayton Jr. I think the versatility of just the amount of different types of 3 point looks he can take is really good. He's very comfortable shooting off the dribble. I think the all around game is underrated for him because I don't think he'll be like a bad relative to his size defender. I think he gives effort. He knows where to be. He's very strong as well, and I think that's a strength of his. Um, and then he's a fine ball handler. He's very good at setting himself up, getting into his shots. I really like Walter Clayton. I'll give you the floor here.
Yeah, Pat. I mean, I 100% agree. Like you said, 6'3", 18 points per game last year. He shot 38% from the 3 point line on a lot of attempts. I mean, this kid, his range is incredible. Like NBA range. Like the shots that I saw him throwing up were like the shots that Curry would throw up, just like the range wise. Like it was incredible watching it, and they would go in with like with ease. Um, and the other thing I like, you kind of mentioned it with the all around game. Like this, he's really good at getting to the rim too, and like finishing around the rim. And he's 6'3". Like a lot of these smaller guards that we talked about in the draft have really struggled at, like they can get to the rim, but they can't really finish it around the rim. But Walter Clayton goes up strong, has a nice layup package, can make just fundamental layups, or he can make it look really, really cool if he needs it to be. And yeah, the shooting is just, you have to love it. And the reason I'm excited to see him in Utah is because of all the kind of like the way Will Hardy will get him opportunities to just get wide open threes, catch and shoot threes off of screens. It's going to be so much fun to watch. And then like I think a thing that I would like to see is how could he step up as like a primary playmaker. He had 4 assists last year in college, but I think like if he could take on like a role where he can actually like dish the rock in Utah, this is going to be a day one starter. I mean, you take like if he can shoot the ball with like what we know he can do, like you said, second best shooter in this class, and also become like a really great playmaker. Um, I really think that unlocks a lot for this Utah offense because, like you said, Markkinen, Bailey, a lot of guys that would benefit from a good primary playmaker like Walden Claytor Jr. could be. But I mean, the offense is already incredible. So I think he's going to come in and make an impact day one.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think the age got used against him probably too much because, and we talked about it, I think pre-draft, we may have talked about it. Like, if you just look around the league at like the small guards that are good, like really, really good all NBA caliber players, they played multiple years in college and they are usually good shooters. And Walter Clayton fits both of those things like extremely well. Like, he's an excellent shooter and he played 4 years in college. Steph Curry, John Morant, Jalen Brunson, Damian Lillard, uh, the list keeps going. Um, I don't know why I've did I say I said John Morant. Um, Geez, pre-draft I would have rattled off all like 7 names that were on my list here. I think like the one exception of like active All NBA caliber guards that is a small guard. Not like your Luka Doncic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander guys because they're 6'6". Is like Trae Young. That's like the only one and done guy, and like he wasn't like he was really great in college, but
Yeah,
he
he was
was really great in college.
stupid in college.
Yeah, he did a lot of the same things as Walter Clayton Jr.
Yeah,
But yeah, I really don't think it should have been as much of a knock on him. I think I had Walter Clayton like literally right outside of my lottery tier, and he's awesome. The name that kept popping up for me when I watched him was Jamal Murray because partially because I think he moves like very similarly to Jamal Murray and how he likes to set up his shot. If he was, maybe a more mild comparison is like a like really good shooting version of Terry Rozier. Um, that's kind of how I feel about Walter Clayton. I think he's awesome. What names came up for you?
yeah. I mean, the Jamal Murray one for sure. I think is like a very like solid one. And then the other one that came to mind was Peyton Pritchard, kind of an undersized guard that can shoot the ball well and can also drive. And um, yeah, I kind of get like 6 man vibes if he was on like a good team, like not the Jazz. Like I get like a contributing 6 man vibes from him. So
Yeah, I think even and we talk about it. I think he's probably better at like ancillary skills than Pritchard is. And I think they're similar caliber shooters. So that's just how great Walter Clayton is. And I think we're gonna look back and be like, why did this guy go 19th?
why did the Wizards trade him?
Why did the Wizards trade Walter Clayton Jr.? Um, yeah, you ready to move forward? Let's see.
Yeah,
Trades and free agents. They've actually made a new one, like literally right before they
yeah.
traded. They took on 2 second-round picks to take on Georges Niang from Boston. Um,
And they traded
Utah's,
R.J. Lewis, I think, who's the St. John's guy.
yeah, who was on a 2-way contract for them. Like, I think this is a good move for them. You get assets for taking on Georges Niang, who like isn't that bad. It's just making a little bit of money, so Boston wanted to get out of that. Yusuf Nurkic, they get in a trade. Kevin Love and Kyle Anderson, they get in trade. Well, I guess we'll talk about those moves really quickly. Kevin Love and Kyle Anderson was in the trade for John Collins. They received a second-round pick alongside. And then the Yusuf Nurkic trade is just so awesome because they traded Colin Sexton and a second-round pick for Yusuf Nurkic. So they've acquired these guys, lost and traded John Collins and Colin Sexton to acquire these guys with no net positive on picks. What do we think about any of the all of these moves?
I mean, I don't know. It's just like weird. Like I feel like there's a lot better market for the guys you just mentioned, especially Colin Sexton. Like, he's still a young guard who plays great defense and can give you like good attacking offense, like and especially the defensive part. And you get a guy who Kevin Love, he's looking to get out of there, right? He's like I've all I've seen is that he's trying to like get bought out. Kyle Anderson, I mean, he's just another like big four, big 4/5 that you have to add into this team that's already so big in size. The Nurkic one, I mean, Nurkic isn't bad. I guess it gives you some ability to Um, let Walker Kessler not have to like have his like Walker Kessler sat out a lot of games near the end of the year, so maybe Nurkic can come in and not have him have such like wear and tear on his body, and then maybe you can have Kyle Filipowski play the 4 a little bit more than the 5. But I mean, you could have just gotten so much more, in my opinion. Like you could have gotten, I would have probably taken more draft picks for like instead of taking like Nurkic and Kevin Love. I would have rather had like even if it was seconds, like anything will help you guys, especially when you're a team that's been drafting. Um, yeah, I don't know. I definitely feel like it was interesting, and I don't think they really won anything from this. Like you just got a bunch of like really old veterans and on a team that does not need that at all. Bill, what were your thoughts?
Well, Georges Niang is returning to Utah, so
Oh yeah, that
that's
one's good. The Niang
that's
one isn't bad.
yeah, that's the key. He will now be the best player on the team, maybe. Probably, definitely not, but he's sneakily up there somehow. And then Kyle Anderson might be a contributing player for Utah next year. It's just he was just okay last year in Golden State and Miami, like not something that you're jumping head over heels for, but you might be able to flip him at the deadline if he replenishes value in the first half. It's just the Jazz don't really like to win games,
Yeah,
so I don't know if they're going to like Kyle Anderson. And we'll move forward to the losses because it's a part of the conversation. But, a large reason they got rid of John Collins was because he won them too many games. And we'll get into that in the lineup data section because kind of was true. Um, Colin Sexton goes to the Hornets. Jordan Clarkson, unfortunately, goes to the Knicks. John Collins goes to the Clippers. Jaden Springer goes to the Pelicans. Oscar Tshiebwe, Johnny Juzang, and Micah Potter are all currently unsigned. We talked about him. The Sex, the Sexton for Nurkic trade is so crazy because there is absolutely no way that Yusuf Nurkic has more value than Colin Sexton. I don't know what has got into their minds. Other than that, John Collins is still a good player. So, it hurts to lose him for basically nothing because you traded a second round pick to get off of Sexton, but they got Kyle Anderson out of it, so it's almost okay. And then Jordan Clarkson he's an NBA player. I'll let you. Do you have anything to say on these losses?
I mean, you got rid of like you said, you got rid of a lot of guys that were like going to help you win like games. John Collins, Colin Sexton's one of the like best motors in the league. Like this guy's not going to go out there and try to lose. Jordan Clarkson, uh, he made he made some decent. He shot pretty well from the three. He shot okay from the 3 point line. Little bit under average, I think, but uh, I don't think the Jordan Clarkson one's too bad because like he there was a point in time where like he was very important for this Jazz team and he was getting like 6 man of the year conversations, but it's been a while since he's been like that. And but also like Johnny Uzang, like obviously Johnny Uzang's not a huge loss, but he did give them like a bunch of minutes in this post All Star break. Like a lot of these guys, Tishwebe as well. Like these guys played a lot for your team. So it's gonna be weird to see like what they look like next year. It's gonna be kind of a different team, like a totally different team, with like a few guys staying the same. So I think Pat, what we're kind of looking at right now is a team that's not really built to go out there and win games. Kind of like what we saw last year from this Jazz team, and they actually lost a lot of those guys. So
Yeah, it's like each year they're like, okay, so we're a little bit too good, so let's take Markkinen out of the conversation because we don't want to trade him for good trade value, and let's trade the two next best players every year. And that's what they've been doing the past couple years. Just such a great organizational strategy. We'll move forward here. This is their current cap situation. As you can see, this is the Markkinen deal that is huge, that is preventing them from being able to easily trade him. Yusuf Nurkic, it's an expiring deal, which almost sounds good until you realize Colin Sexton was making less money and was also expiring. Kyle Anderson essentially is an expiring deal. Ace Bailey, rookie contract. Kenyon Martin, a non-guarantee player who's expiring. And then it's just rookie contracts from that point on. Svi Mikhailu actually is not a rookie contract. He's making the value of a rookie contract on the
Hey,
books.
that's a 50-point player right there.
Yeah, it definitely is. um, but yeah, it's just like it's clean books. It has to be. They do currently have cap space because it was possible they could have made a run for one of the restricted free agents. I don't think they're going to do that. It would make their team too good. Well, actually, when you consider who some of the restricted free agents are, I don't know. Um, anyway, Fanspo, yeah, it kind of basically confirms. You look for this upcoming season, they currently have cap space. Um, if you look, they will have a ton of cap space over these next couple seasons with 80, 100, 128. Just a ton of money. I think at this point in time, I think Markkinen's like the only guy on the books outside of like Ace Bailey and Walter Clayton Jr. So, way to go, y'all. I think one other thing that we do have to mention, if we'll go back here, um, where is he? Walker Kessler is currently extension eligible. They have yet to work something out there. I think that they're going to go to restricted free agency with him because he wasn't that great last season, and this $14.5 million cap hold will allow them to get more cap space than probably what you would if you re-signed Walker Kessler. They might also just trade him, and they don't want to have the extension blocking him from being trade eligible. We'll see what they do. I don't know if the Jazz have ever really had a plan, but here we are with this team that they have. And now that I think about it, they might not have cap space anymore because they took on the Niang deal. Lineup data. They sucked. I took Lowry, Filipowski, and Sexton, who were like probably their best players who actually like played more than 40 games, and they were plus 6.04. Like not bad. It was only 113 minutes. John Collins had the highest net rating on the team. That's why they had to trade him. It was still a negative 1.75, but it was the best on the team because, you know, anything you have to say on this standpoint?
Um, no. I mean, I guess I'll kind of talk about like I think Filipowski is like I kind of crapped on him a lot last time we did one of these with the Jazz, but I think that he really has turned a corner. He looked really good, especially not only in the summer league but like in the NBA last season. So like shooting the ball, he was able to like drive too, and he's able to like kind of play that role where you get the ball at the top of the key and you have someone run around you, and then the defender just moves slightly. He was able to attack the basket well, and he had a couple good dunks this year. So I think Filipowski's gonna be a guy that you see on like some crazy stat stuff next season. But yeah, I mean, other than that, this team is terrible. Their best player had a negative net rating, so usually when that happens, not a lot of good things are going on, and then you trade them away. So
Yeah. All I'm saying is the reason Filipowski fell in the draft is because he was allegedly groomed into Mormonism, and of course he ends up on the Jazz.
I totally forgot about that. I forgot that was like a storyline last season.
So like it had to have been intentional, right? Especially
Yeah,
with
and
the
like
investment they have in BYU.
considering that they drafted one of the worst first round picks and Cody Williams, looking like the Filipowski thing might have been like their saving grace from last year's draft, because we didn't really talk about it much this episode, but Cody Williams was by far the worst rookie I think in this draft. He really struggled.
It would be a saving grace if like they didn't get fired for it. Like everybody who was
Oh
in on
yeah,
making the pick got fired. So
that is true. Yeah, but at least Baby Ainge has a little something to work with
yeah, he's got
in that
flip.
draft class. He is flip.
Yeah, I mean, first good player that the Jazz have drafted in their rebuild, unfortunately, because they've been picking high. I mean, I guess they didn't even draft Kessler. Never mind. All right, we'll move forward. There's nothing to talk about lineup data wise, besides the efficacy of Mormonism. So lineups, I struggled making it. I ended up with Clayton and Bailey both starting in their rookie seasons. The Wizards just did it last year and they were terrible. So the Jazz will hopefully follow suit because they think it'll make them bad. Even though I think they could both probably be pretty all right day one. Markkanen, Filipowski both starting. Previously they had started Collins a lot more than Kessler, and then they had started Olenek a little bit, and I think Olenek and um, Filipowski play stylistically similar, and hopefully the ceiling's a little bit higher for Flip. And then I put Sensabaugh in the starting lineup just because he balled out in summer league and he shot the ball really well last season. So, what do you think on the starting lineup?
I like the starting lineup because you get a little bit of spacing with like everybody. Like it doesn't clog the paint up that much for Markkinen and Kessler. I think I think an interesting lineup could be putting Bo on the bench, putting Bailey at the two, Markkinen at the three, Flip at the four, and then starting Kessler at the five. Um, But besides that, I like it. I think Keyshawn George should be starting. I like this lineup a lot. Like if you're gonna run both Flip, Markkinen out there, I think that getting this spacing is just really nice. And it frees up the lane too. And you have like decent 3-point shooters out there too. Like you said, Bo Sensabaugh shot the ball well. We know about Walter Clayton, Ace Bailey, what he can be, and then yeah, we'll see what we get from Markkinen and Phillip, but two capable shooters from the 3-point line, and all those guys can drive and get to the basket. So it's not a bad lineup. Well, not the worst lineup. Well, I guess we'll see. We'll have to see how it plays, obviously. But yeah, I like that
Yeah,
lineup though.
Ace Bailey's going from the Rucker spacing to like this spacing, and it's going to be so great for him. And he's going to have Will Hardy as his head coach. Like this is how Ace Bailey is going to succeed in the NBA. If it wasn't going to happen here in Utah, it just wasn't going to happen. So let's go Ace Bailey. Hopefully you're better than Cody Williams. I think he will be better than Cody Williams. Cody Williams, shout out to him. I considered starting him for a second, and then I was like, wait, Sensabaugh. What am I talking about? Sensabaugh should start. Um, yeah, and then I didn't know what to do about the three guards with George, Collier, and Clayton, but I figured, like, honestly, I think I feel like Clayton was the best prospect of the three of them, and
Clayton's probably older than both of them too.
probably is actually. Um, and even though Collier was like a pretty solid success story, he also still wasn't like good. He was just like able to play last season on the Jazz, and they didn't have a ton of guys who were able to play. So,
Yeah,
um,
it kind of sucks for some of those guys because they're being put in a role that they should not be doing. Like they're getting overtasked so much. So like I feel like Collier, like he did really good last season. I mean, obviously like the numbers and stuff, like he kind of had like an average season, but I feel like they got some decent guard play out of like Collier and George, but like both of them on defense is rough having them out there on defense. Then they have a lot of turnover problems too. So that's the knock. But it's just hard. Like this Jazz team has talent, but the front office not wanting them to win, plus like just how young they are and how vulnerable they are to mistakes, just really hurts them. And their defense being rough, it really hurts them too. Um,
Isaiah Collier did the Jeremiah Fears experience, but in the NBA. Um, Yeah, it was just it was such a like unfortunate situation, and I would have expected him to just be like absurdly bad last year, and like he was just like not good.
yeah,
So yeah, way to go, Isaiah Collier. And then I guess we have to talk about the power forward situation because they're probably gonna cut Kevin Love and KJ Martin, but then they'll have Hendricks, Anderson, and George Niang along with Larry Markin, and just so awesome. Hopefully Hendricks will be healthy this season because he snapped his leg midway through the year last year. Praying for Taylor Hendricks because I think he was supposed to be one of like their good players. Like I think he's going to be like he was at least on a trajectory to be good. Um, it's just so unfortunate because one of the few picks they've hit on. Anything here that you want to talk about?
I think I said my piece.
Do we like Flip starting over Kessler?
Yeah, yeah. I just think. I mean, I still think Kessler is. I think Kessler's better than Flip, and I think his rebounding and his defensive ability is better. But he's not as offensively like. If you have Kessler in there, like there, the spacing goes down a little bit because Kessler's not gonna be able to shoot the three ball. And honestly, I mean, Kessler's in a lot of Kessler was in a lot of trade talks last year, and he had a very high asking price. So I don't know. It's tough, but I think I'll go Filipowski just for the sake of the spacing, and having Kessler off the bench is really good for them because I think Kessler's a great defender and just player in general.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think this is how I would do it. They're probably still going to play Kessler like 28 minutes, if I had to
Yeah.
guess. Um, we'll move forward to the core questions. Did the Utah Jazz improve this offseason? I'm going to go in and say no.
Yeah, it's a no for me too.
Do we think they set themselves up better for the future with this offseason?
I Yeah, I'll say yeah because they got two really good promising prospects in Keontae George and Ace Bailey. The only thing that's hesitating me on saying no is because, well, they didn't really. You know what? Yeah, I think they did because although they traded away their best players, like John Collins is in his 30s. I guess Colin Sexton's still young, but I'll say they did set themselves up for the future. I'll say so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would have no hesitancy saying no if they didn't get nothing negative assets for trading Colin Sexton and John Collins, but it's I think they've the two players they drafted this year are like their two best young players outside of maybe Flip and whatever Taylor Hendricks might be after the knee injury. So I kind of just have to say yes. Offensive MVP for them this upcoming season. I kind of just want to stick with Larry Markkinen, but I could see like a Kyle Filipowski, like he's a small ball five, can pass the ball. Maybe there's a breakout season there, but I'm gonna stick with Markkinen.
Yeah, I'll go Markkinen too. Like when he's healthy and on the court, the offense is him. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna go Markkinen. I guess. Yeah, yeah, Markkinen.
No, defensive MVP. My one concern is Walker Kessler had no impact on their defense last year, whether he was on or off the floor. Um, I think some of that is because he's primarily a drop big, and they didn't have anybody to fight over screens last year. But they were decent at guarding the pick and roll. We talked about that earlier today. They were actually pretty decent at guarding the pick and roll. Um, I guess I'm gonna just stick with Kessler because I just don't know if there's any good defenders on this team. I'll leave it to you though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think Kessler's rim protection definitely gives him the ability to get that defensive MVP. Um, I mean, if Ace Bailey ends up being actually good at defense, his versatility would be really nice. I think, but I'll go Kessler just because I don't really know who else I'd pick.
Yeah, if Ace Bailey is like a actually good defender and not like a DeAndre Hunter type defender, um, I think that's actually another comp that, oh man, that one actually makes a ton of sense. DeAndre Hunter. Um, if he's like actually like a really good defender, like he could be pretty damn good on that end. Probably a tick below like your all defensive type wings, but like maybe in like that Trey Murphy category where he's good and he's versatile, like you said. But yeah, I think sticking with Kessler is probably the move. And then X factor for me, um, Who do we have as X Factor?
Hmm. I mean, just because I know this guy's gonna like come in and play day one, I guess I'll go Ace Bailey. If he comes in there and is able to like if the weaknesses aren't as glaring, like the ball handling stuff and some of the passing questions and just the self creation, the offense opens up a lot for Utah. I feel like if he's able to self create, that just brings more guys onto him. If he can pass out of like double teams and stuff, you'll have wide open cutters and wide open guys like you'll have Keyshawn or not Keyshawn. Well, you'll have Keyshawn George waiting for a three. You'll have Walter Clayton waiting for a three. You'll have Markin and cutting, stuff like that. I feel like it could bring a lot to this game. And if he can shoot the ball like league average, if he can shoot 35% from the three, like 36, 37% from the three, I mean, that's huge for Utah, I feel like. And
Yeah.
maybe we see a top 20 offense instead of top 25. I don't think it would be like a crazy difference, but like I feel like he could make a really big one, or he can make a difference.
Yeah. I think, like we talked about before, usually wings are not a quick developing position, but like if Ace Bailey's good, like I feel like we're gonna see signs of it right away. He might not immediately be a positive impact player, but we're gonna see that like yeah, the upside for Ace Bailey is going to be a thing in the NBA. And I think we'll know right away. It's just he'll take a year or two to get to it. Kind of like how Brandon Ingram was in Los Angeles, where like he was putting up points and like the impact wasn't all the way there, but like the pieces were slowly starting to get there. And I think once Ace Bailey like develops his feel for the game, I think he could be a good player. And I think this is the situation for him to be able to do that. That's the main reason, not the only reason. I really love the pick for Utah of taking Ace Bailey, even though like I had him a couple spots lower than 5 on my board. I think I'm at 7. I think this fits great for him, and I think X factor for sure. If he can be somewhat decent right away, Utah might like they might win 25 games instead of 18. So, yeah. I guess any other Utah Jazz talks that you want to have cuz this might be the last time we talk about them until
Um, hopefully Keyshawn George keeps doing his thing, Baylor alum. So I think Keyshawn George or not Keyshawn, I said it again. Walter Clayton's gonna shine. I think Ace Bailey's gonna do better. Than I think he's gonna prove. I think he's gonna prove a lot of people wrong. I think he's gonna come in and be able to self create and stuff like that. Filipowski's gonna be good. Watch out for Filipowski. I guess that's really all I got to say. The three, like, I think if you're a Jazz fan or if you're watching Jazz basketball, you should be looking at um, really like three guys right now for kind of like for your future, and that's George Bailey, Flip, and I mean, are you going to pay and Markkinen, I guess, depending on how much he plays. But I think those 3, 4 guys are definitely something to keep your eye on this season.
yeah, I mean they're not playing for playoff spots. They're playing for Cam Boozer and Darren Peterson and Debansa. So, um, please, if they can land one of those guys, I think there might be something cooking here. We'll have to see.
2028 play-in is coming.
Yep, that's the goal. 2028 plan is currently the goal for the Utah Jazz. Yeah, other than that, we're gonna wrap this one up. Next episode, we're getting better. We're going from the 30th best team to the 29th. We're going to the Washington Wizards after this. We'll see you guys then.